weapon he is holding is called the matchlock because of the piece of German cord he's holding in his hand, known as match. It's not nor hempo, it's hot. It is with soaked in gunpowder. It burns very hot, very slowly. The weapon he's holding in his hand is the Mark Bussy. It's an early version of the matchlock. Matchlocks appear, give or take, about 1450, and they will be used somewhere throughout Europe well into the 18th century. This type of ignition is the most reliable in the period, and it is the longest ever designed. It serves far longer than any of the modern types of firearms that we have today. This weapon is very simple to operate. If you were a regular soldier, he would learn this from an instruction manual with pictures, a manual drill, under the supervision of an officer. However, being border reivers as we are banished. So he will learn how to use this weapon from one of his other clansmen, or possibly another reiver who will teach him how to use it. Like I said, it's a very simple weapon to operate. That's why in border reivers we like this weapon. First step, you will take off your key. Then you will open the pan and clean out the pan. You want to make sure there's no debris in that pan on the side of the gun that might interfere with the ignition of this weapon. Next, you will handle the front. That contains a very small grain of gunpowder inside of it. That's very easy to ignite. And then you will pour some of that into the pan on the side of the weapon. Don't want any powder laying on top of that pan cover because eventually we're going to put a very hot tip of the match there. So he's going to clear that off by tapping it off or blowing it off. Then he's going to swing that musket around to the side there. In the serious firearms manuals, they call that cast it out to piece. It's a very fancy term. We don't use it. Then he's going to take one of those wooden bottles and he's got hanging across the chest. Pour the contents down the barrel of that weapon. Each of those bottles is filled with enough gunpowder for one shot from the musket. We pre-measure those so that in the heat of battle, he's not worried about having to measure out how much powder he needs as he leads shot. If we were firing a live ball, which again I'm going to emphasize, we are not firing live rounds, he would spit one out of his mouth or take one from the pouch at the side of that bandolier he's wearing. And you stick it down the barrel. Next, he's going to pull out that scour stick. And he's going to pack that charge down into the breech of the gun, nice and tight. Then he's going to put that back. Now he's going to bring that gun back around to the original position he had it in. And he's going to place that match in the jaws of the surface beam there on the side of the gun, and he's going to test it to make sure it is hitting the exact spot on the top of that pan where he wants it. That is why this weapon has a pan cover. That is our safety device, so that this weapon will not go off before he is ready. Ready? Now he will face downrange in a safe direction, and have a care! He will fire. Every 20 seconds, or faster if he is able. The next weapon he has there is, now the matchlock is the most common firearm you're going to find. This is the epitome of firearm technology in the 16th century. This is a wheel-lock pistol. Wheel locks are made by clock makers because inside that there is a coil spring that he's going to wind. And when he unwinds that, when he pulls the trigger, it will unwind right along the piece of pyrite and it fire the weapon. This operates a little differently from that matchlock. The first step in this is actually going to load it. 1650. And the predominant reason for them is pistols. It's more convenient to carry around gunpowder in that newspaper to a pistol than it is to wear those big bottles that he's wearing. Now he's loaded that. In order to keep that charge of powder down the barrel of the gun, what we're going to do is we're going to fold out that newspaper and we're going to stick it down the barrel of the gun. Otherwise, when he hooks that pistol back into his belt, all that gunpowder he just put down the barrel is going to pour right out. We don't want that. We want it to stay put. Now again, just like with the matchlock, he's going to pull out a scouring stick. He's going to pack everything good and tight in the breech of that gun. Again, we replace that scouring stick. The scouring stick would make an excellent projectile. However, if you shoot it at your opponent, you would just disarm him. Next, he's going to bring that weapon around, and he's going to take the key that he's got hanging there, and he's going to use that to turn that coil spring inside. Turn it until you hear the click. That lets you know you've turned it as far as it needs to be turned. Now he's going to take that prime that he has again, and in the side of this piece, he's got a pan just like on the matchlock. And he's going to pour some of that prime into that pan. Like the matchlock, this has a pan cover on it. However, unlike the matchlock, this is a mechanical pan cover. So when he pulls the trigger, several things will happen. He's going to set that serpentine down on top of that pan cover. That contains a piece of pyrite, which is a very soft flint, essentially. So what's going to happen when he pulls that trigger is that pan cover is going to move out of the way, the coil spring inside is going to unwind, that piece of serrated steel is going to grate along the pyrite, creating a spark and firing the weapon. That is why this is the height of firearms technology in the 16th century. Now we're going to fire that in conjunction with doing an actual tactical demonstration of the way the Reivers would have attacked any kind of settlement or conducted an ambush. He's got his gag, or pistol as we called it in the period, cocked, primed, and ready to go. All he needs to do is set that pyrite down on top. Now he's going to load his musket. On a raid, the Reivers would very often have more than one pistol, have them already preloaded and ready to engage the opponent when they got to wherever they were going to raid. They would often ride into the area, dismount to fight on foot, because now we can conduct more of a sneaky type of warfare. We can move from cover to cover and engage our opponents that way. If we were regular soldiers, of course, this is a shameful way to fight. You would never hide from your opponent. However, we are not regular soldiers. So we love to use cover. We love to engage in ambushes. That's how we fight. That's how we survive. Ready? Now that he's arrived at the place he's going to live, he's going to get off his horse and engage the enemy. have any questions, please feel free.